Stern of Mortgage Solutions Financial. Rob has a wealth of information on the American dream of home ownership, credit repair, and refinancing. Be prepared to call in with questions at 972 988 1040. That's 972 988 1040. Rob Stern, Fridays at 1 p.m. on 1040 a.m. KGGR. Hello, hello. I am Autumn and glad that you have decided to tune in today. Of course, you know what day it is. Of course, Good Friday. And as far as I'm concerned, every Friday is a Good Friday when we reach Friday. But we do have Rob Stern here with us. So we're going to go ahead and jump right on in and talk about our investments and everything. How are you doing today, Rob?
I'm doing really well today, Autumn. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. I really appreciate it. And yes, it is Good Friday, and yes, every Friday is a great day and a good day. So I'm just blessed, and I couldn't be happier.
Well, I want to go ahead and put this out there that you guys can definitely give us a call so that we can answer your questions here live on the air at 972-988-1040, 972-988-1040. You'll hear us mention that number out throughout as well as Rob's number if you just kind of want to contact him off of the airways. And Rob, what is your number?
Yes, ma'am. My telephone number is 972-739-2350. That's 972-739-2350. And you can also find me on the internet. Go to Lenders Texas, that is LendersTexas.com.
And who is Rob? He is the mortgage lender expert.
You know, I appreciate that, Autumn. Thank you very much. And I think we need to let's say the mortgage doctor. How about that? Because I
like it.
Yeah, we were talking about that last week and in subsequent weeks prior to that. You know, self-diagnosis is probably one of the biggest problems that we see when it comes to people that want a mortgage. They try and diagnose their issues on their own. They don't go to a person who can actually give them some very specific definitive information. And I think that not only is that very important, but one thing we want to point to everybody, we want to point out, and that is the fact that not all lenders are created equal. Just like not all automobiles are equal, not all dealerships are equal, not all insurance policies are equal. Mortgage Solutions, the Lenders Residential Mortgage Team, we are direct mortgage lenders, direct with the Veterans Administration, direct with FHA, direct with USDA, Fannie Mae, and Freddie Mac. What that means is we don't have to deal with any third-party overlays or underwriting. We do all of our own underwriting. We follow the rules that are laid out before us by the Veterans Administration, as an example. We have no minimum credit score because the VA has no minimum credit score. You hear these third-party companies that put all these things in place to protect their portfolio. The reality is that is what hurts the consumer, and it's just a good idea for the consumer to be knowledgeable as they walk into the process of exactly what's happening. So we want to invite everybody to give us a call. That direct dial phone number again is 972-739-2350, 972-739-2350. I had to think for a minute there.
It's okay.
And I just appreciate the opportunity to be here on this Easter weekend.
And I want to make sure that everybody understands there's a difference between a mortgage company and a lender. Just because you reached out to a mortgage company, they still have to find a lender, correct?
Well, that's a very good point. Yes, ma'am. So the lender is the one who actually gives the money for the mortgage loan. If you deal with a mortgage broker, as an example, or a mortgage company, they're going to come to a company like us in order to get that loan closed. In other words, you're inserting a third party into the transaction. It makes so much more sense to go directly to a lender, so you know exactly what you're dealing with, and you're speaking to quite literally to the people who can make those decisions, as opposed to dealing with a third party who has no real control.
What makes you stand out from your competition, maybe other lenders? What makes it a little, the process a little easier going with you?
Sure, and I appreciate that question. I would say clearly having done this now for 32 years, I'd say I don't really have any competition. However, that's more ego than anything else. That's not entirely accurate. As a mortgage lender, we do things quite a bit differently. We underwrite our own mortgage loans. I don't use any kind of a third-party facilitator to process my files. I do my own processing, my own underwriting. We issue our own guidelines based on our relationships with Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, with FHA and with VA, with USDA. What that does is it gives us the ability to close loans that others won't close for whatever reason. Now, the reality is, I have as much experience and knowledge with people that have 800 credit scores as with people who have 500 credit scores. The point to all of this is we're a very well-rounded company. We work with all types of individuals, purchasing your first home, purchasing your last home, refinancing, taking equity out of your house. You have to start somewhere. The place to start is with somebody who is knowledgeable. That's me.
Yeah. And so many times what happens is when we do self-diagnose ourselves, fear, it's a fear thing. So what we have to do is just give you a call, forget about that fear. Don't handle it yourself. Go ahead and call the mortgage doctor, the lender doctor. Hey, lender, what are we calling you?
Mortgage doctor.
Yeah, that too.
That.
And so recently, Rob, we mentioned it briefly last week that the interest rates and things were going up, recently gone up. Now, are you responsible for that? I'm just kidding.
Yeah, me personally.
You're right. You did that.
Yeah. Well, the Federal Reserve raised rates, but the interesting thing is that it didn't really move rates in the overall general market. And there's a reason behind all of that, Autumn. So when a lender issues interest rates, we forecast forward, right? Okay. So we do everything on a forward look. Interest rates were expected to go up 0.5 point, and instead of going up 0.5 point, they went up 0.25 point. So instead of rates going higher, rates stayed the same or actually relaxed a tad bit. It's no magic, no hocus pocus involved whatsoever. The market is driven directly by what the Federal Reserve does and how the economy responds. I don't know that we're going to see another interest rate hike. Honestly, I'm a little hopeful that we don't, and I think it's entirely possible that we may be done with this. But with that being said, there's no definitive answer at this juncture. No way of knowing what may or may not happen. I think the one thing for everybody to understand, and I deal with this honestly every day, is that even though rates are higher now than they were at this point in time a year ago, house prices are beginning to settle down.
That was the next question.
and as house prices settle down, that's the right time to jump in and become a homeowner. Don't worry about the interest rate. Don't worry about the transaction itself. If you can afford to make the payment for the house, buy the house, because eventually rates are going to come back down. When rates come back down, you'll refinance the house and you'll be left with a lower mortgage payment and the house that you truly want to own in the first place. I know that there is still a shortage of available housing. So that means that prices aren't going to fall significantly like we saw back in 2007. But we will see prices start to relax a little bit.
What makes the prices come down?
Supply and demand is the whole thing. And right now there is still not enough of a supply to meet the demand out there in the market. And the only way to stop the demand is to raise interest rates so high that people can't afford a house, and that's just not going to happen. They've raised interest rates significantly, and that's taking a big chunk out of everything. But they're not going to just raise interest rates for the sole purpose of making the housing market crash. They're moving interest rates for the purpose of helping the economy. And now that the economy is on a much more even footing, I don't think they're going to keep raising these rates. So what that means is that we still have a shortage of homes. And again, our conversation is respective to Dallas, Fort Worth. I want to be clear about that. So the rest of the country is in a totally different place. But what I was saying is house prices will relax a little bit because there's not as much demand as there were as we had a year ago. But on the same token, there's still not enough houses to satisfy what is needed out there. So
wow. Even though they're building like crazy, they're still not.
well, they're building, but they're selling.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's the whole thing. You know, builders have moved their model in most cases to the extent where they are now only building homes after they go under contract, and they're not building spec houses where they just sit there for a month or 2 months or 6 months and they try to sell the house.
No.
Previously, that's, you know, back in 2006, we saw a lot of that kind of a lot of that business model, and that's part of what led to the big housing crisis that we had, is because builders were able to get the money to build all these spec houses, and they were sitting on maybe 100 or 200 homes that they couldn't sell, which caused the housing market to crash. That's not going to happen this time. I don't see that happening.
So now, are you saying that pretty much if you see a house being built, it's being built for someone, it's under contract?
Typically, yes, ma'am.
Unless someone backs out, then you could.
And that's the way you're going to find a house. If you see a house being constructed, it's typically already under contract, or they started the house and someone backed out, but they've continued to build the house because they're halfway through the project, which happens. Someone backs out, or perhaps someone is disqualified for one reason or another. They lost their job, they took a cut in pay. Could be any of a variety of things.
Wow. But we can call your office because you also are connected to realtors. So you could have this information about certain houses that are being built that someone is, not going to occupy. So we can get that from you.
Yes, ma'am. No, that's the right thing to do. The right place to start when you want to become a homeowner is to get pre-approved, meaning call your mortgage lender, which hopefully is me. Call your mortgage lender. Let's gather all the information you need for the file so that you can be fully approved, and then go look for your house. With that approval in hand, it not only makes you a much more desirable borrower to the seller, but it means that you can close quicker because your loan's already been fully approved.
You got that? Because I learned that the hard way, Rob, going out shopping for a house, trying to get a house, and have not been pre-approved. And so when I went through the process of trying to get approved, and it was a no, not right now at that moment, then it was just a waste of time to go and look for it. Plus, there are a lot of realtors that don't even want to deal with you.
No, you're correct. And I think the bigger, the bigger piece that we haven't really talked about here is that if you go out looking for a home before you're approved, you find the perfect home, you make an offer, you get the offer accepted, right? You get your hopes up. All of a sudden, mentally, you're thinking, I'm going to be a homeowner. I can't wait. And then you find out there's a problem. And that's very disheartening. It's disillusioning. And quite honestly, there's a lot of people who have stopped in their quest towards home ownership simply because of that experience.
Yeah. Well, and now they will stop you. They will ask, do you have a pre-approval letter? So
they should. Yes, ma'am. They certainly should.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So you can definitely call in 972-988-1040. That's to talk to us right now, 972-988-1040. But offline, you can call Rob at
972-739-2350. That's 972-739-2350. I really want to encourage people to call us while we're on the air, though, because I think that empowers our listeners. People enjoy hearing that other people have similar questions. I know nobody wants to feel Nobody wants to feel like they're ignorant or stupid. And
Right.
and there is no such thing as a bad question. The only bad question is the one you don't ask.
Exactly.
And yeah, so I love having people call us on the air and just talk to us about exactly what's happening. This week, as a matter of fact, I had a real interesting call from a young man who is a veteran, and he just got out of the army. He wants to buy a house, and we spoke about how to position him moving forward to qualify. Obviously, getting a job is the first thing he had to do. But again, if you don't call and you don't ask the questions, you never know.
It looks like we do have a caller.
Oh, very good.
And then we'll get back to that story.
Okay, sure.
Go ahead, caller, you're on.
Hi, this is Cecilia. I was just trying to see when all the foreclosures gonna drop, because everybody's saying just wait 6 more months. They're gonna start having foreclosures and all that. And how do you go about getting a list of foreclosures?
Okay, well, there's companies that will accumulate the homes that are posted for foreclosure, which is, I think, probably the list you're making reference to. Once a house is foreclosed on, then the only way you can buy it is quite literally through the mortgage company that owns the property as an REO, or perhaps on the courthouse steps downtown. If you're going to buy something on the courthouse steps downtown through auction, you need to have your money lined up and you need to be ready. Now, as far as waiting 6 months for foreclosure, I'm going to be I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I don't think you're going to see a big foreclosure push in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, because there's just not enough homes available right now for people who want to buy houses.
Wow.
There's always going to be homes that are foreclosed on because people wait till the very last minute, perhaps. But for the most part, anybody who is in trouble and wants to sell a home can almost just stick a sign in the front yard and sell that house without having to go through the whole foreclosure process. So again, I'm not trying to burst your bubble or anything, but I wouldn't put things off for 6 months hoping that you're going to see ridiculously crazy prices in the market because of all these foreclosures. I don't believe that it's coming, and I don't think anybody I know is forecasting that in the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
Wow.
Oh, okay. Well,
So
we're trying to see where do you get the list at.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can probably search that out on the internet. There's companies that will compile those lists. I know back in 2007, 2008, we were seeing, 3,000 or 4,000 homes a month that were being posted for foreclosure. Now, a lot of those were carried forward from one month to another month. That number right now is down into a few hundred.
Wow.
But yeah, search it. Just go onto the internet and search it out, home foreclosures lists, and I'm sure you'll be able to find somebody that can provide that to you. If your goal is to become a homeowner, before you start whatever it is you want to do, you might want to give us a call. Let's look at credit and go ahead and build the file and get you fully approved, so that at least you can move forward with some relative confidence that you can get a mortgage for that house when you do find it.
Awesome.
Now we have all of that already. It's just that every time you try to get a house, it's like 5 times more than what it's worth.
Well, good luck to you. I hope it all works out. If you're in a good place with your mortgage, then it's just a matter of finding the right house, and maybe you can find something through these foreclosure lists.
Yeah.
I appreciate.
All right, thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am. I appreciate your call.
And you can call in as well, 972-988-1040. That's 972-988-1040. Rob, is it safe to say when you go through the foreclosure list, a lot of times the company that provided is usually tied to something like a realtor, and they'll tie you to their mortgage company. Can you say to them, thank you for this list. I have found something. Let me contact my mortgage company. Let me contact my lender.
Sure. Well, so first off, they're going to sell you a list. Nobody's going to give you a list. And there are companies that do just that. They go down to the courthouse and they compile public records and then they turn around and they sell them.
Wow.
Okay. But you know, hey, I mean, this is America, right? Um, so the point is though, with these foreclosure lists, what ends up happening is, first off, it's people who are posted for foreclosure. Now, that doesn't mean they can't settle the problem and stall the foreclosure out.
Okay.
So half of what's on these lists, people find a way to fix it. Either they borrow the money from mom and dad, or brother, sister, what have you, and they pay off the arrearages so that the house comes out of foreclosure, or they turn around and they sell that house to liquidate the foreclosure so that they've stalled it out, or they file bankruptcy to stall the foreclosure out.
Gotcha. So it
And
doesn't
then
necessarily mean it's the end game.
Yes, ma'am. And then what's left is a small portion of those homes that are actually posted for foreclosure. But there's certainly a strategy there, and there's people who are able to buy these homes out of foreclosure. When you buy a home out of foreclosure, you also have to worry about the condition of the home, how the people who were inhabiting the house prior left that home, obviously after being evicted or kicked out, what have you.
So it's as is.
Yeah, it's as is. And you know, I've heard stories of people putting cement down the toilets and pulling the fixtures off walls, and you know, because they're angry, and I get it. And part of it has to do with the circumstances behind why the house is being foreclosed. So I probably would say that's not the best route to go in this economy. But you know, I mean, to each his own. It's a lot of work, and maybe the caller will find something that meets her satisfaction.
I just feel that you have to have, you know, enough money to fix, you know, the problems and things that will be probably wrong with getting that house
on foreclosed property.
Yeah.
Typically, yeah. I mean, I think that would go without saying.
Okay.
I think, you know, right now we're in a market where, again, there's just not enough houses to meet the demand. A even market is considered a 90-day supply of housing.
Okay.
Which is 3 months.
Okay.
That means things are open for negotiation. It's not a buyer's market or not a seller's market. Right now we have about 5 weeks supply of houses.
Wow.
So we're not even halfway there, which means it's still very much a seller's market. Not to the extent where people are paying $50,000 over asking price. Not like it was a year ago, but we're still seeing a lot of activity, and people are getting what they ask for their houses.
Yeah. So if you could buy, the time is to get in now. To go ahead and do it.
Well, yes, ma'am.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, no, clearly this is the time to get into your home. I don't see prices going down significantly. As a matter of fact, I see prices going up significantly over the next 3 to 5 years. You know, we talked about this every week. In 19, 20, and 21, and even 22, we saw prices increase almost 21% annualized, which means that the home almost doubled in value in that 4-year cycle. They may not continue to grow at that same pace, but we're going to continue to see appreciation in the very strong areas here in the Dallas-Fort Worth market, in Denton County as well. Not every area, but a lot of these areas are going to see these increases. And again, that's why we want people to call us and get pre-approved before you move into the mortgage, into the home buying process, because things move very quickly right now. You find the house, you make an offer, and that offer is accepted, and you need to be ready to move forward. You need to know what you have. Yeah.
Okay. We do have time to take another caller at 972-988-1040, 972-988-1040. But Rob, I definitely don't want to get off without talking about our veterans. And I know you started a story before we got the caller about one this week.
Well, you know, and you're right, and I did. And so this is a veteran who was who was previously who was discharged just not too long ago. He wasn't working, but the bigger issue is that while he was in the service, he bought a home and let that home go to foreclosure. And it happens for a variety of reasons, either because they're deployed or because there's a difficulty with the marriage, or it could be any of a variety of things. But he lost that home to foreclosure. So what we want our veterans to understand is that foreclosure on a VA loan or foreclosure on any loan does not prevent you from using your VA benefits again to buy another house.
Oh, wow.
Yes, ma'am. It's a 1 year cooling off period. That's it. 1 year wait, and you can use those benefits again to buy another home using your VA. So again, we talk about this every week, but the VA, the Veterans Administration, is the most loosely qualifying mortgage that we have out there. There are so many opportunities for a veteran to buy a home. You know, foreclosure, even bankruptcy will not prevent you from purchasing a home. But you got to start somewhere. You have to talk to somebody who understands the ins and the outs of how to move through this process. Veterans have so many benefits. Actually, Americans have so many benefits. Not just being a veteran. The FHA loan is equally as forgiving for bankruptcies and foreclosures. But you need to talk to somebody who knows how to work through these processes. And I think a lot of people end up going to their bank. Or they end up going to a broker perhaps and asking these questions, and they don't get the answers that they need because they're not asking the right person the questions. Lenders Residential Mortgage, we are listed with the Better Business Bureau. We have been for 20 some odd years, A++ ratings, never had a complaint. You got to start somewhere, and we are the right place to start. My telephone number again is 972-739-2350. That's 972-739-2350. You can also find me on the internet at Lenders Texas, spelled out LendersTexas.com.
Rob, it's so good to have all the benefits of the American benefits as well as the veteran benefits. I'm almost jealous of the veterans because it's easy. It's easy.
Well, the veterans loan is a great loan. Of course, they've all sacrificed quite a bit for our freedoms, and they deserve every single bit of opportunity that they're given. You know, I wish everybody who is watching us, who is listening to us, a wonderful good Easter and all the blessings that they are doing. We're so fortunate to be Americans, regardless of what's going on politically in our country. This is a wonderful time to be here and to be alive, and we're just all so blessed.
Awesome. Okay, thanks, Rob. And until next week, go ahead and give your number one more time in case y'all can go ahead and call him as soon as we hang up. He's available.
Sure, yeah, no, I'm in the office today. Yes, ma'am. My telephone number, real quick, 972-739-2350. That is 972-739-2350. And just give me a call.
All right. Thanks, Rob.
Take care, Autumn. Have a good Easter.
Bye-bye.
Yes,
you
ma'am.
too.